Slang Dictionary, Red Pill. What does red pill mean? Red pill refers to becoming enlightened to the truth about reality, especially a truth that is difficult to accept or exposes delusions. Online, red pill is especially used among anti-feminist, white supremacist groups and refer to waking up to the truth that women and liberal politics are oppressing men and white people. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is All Minus One. I'm Bill. Please like, share, subscribe. Go check out my other links. They are all in the description. I have a subscribe star if you are so inclined to donate. And I have a live show every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. The Ends Justify the Memes. You can find us on a different YouTube channel or on DLive, The Ends Justify the Memes. So, why am I bringing up the red pill? Seems like everyone seems to know this. Well, because of that last sentence there. Everyone seems to know that this comes from the Matrix, right? That was a cultural moment in film and American history, if you would. And people started adopting this. Originally, it was often adopted by, say, the pickup community. And it started going into the manosphere, and it became a broader thing because this is what happens with slang, right? Lots of people use the terminology. But what is this whole thing about it being anti-feminist, white supremacist, and waking up to the truth that women and liberal politics are oppressing men and white people? Well, that may be sort of true, but where that really comes from is not the reality of the internet. It is articles like this. It says, neo-Nazi legosm, neologism, I cannot say it right now, sorry, excuse me. A neologism, thank you. Hey, I got it right that time. Is a word that's essentially a new word, right? It's a word that gets coined out of nowhere and becomes popular. So Quartz, being the facade of a magazine that it is, instead of just being a left-wing propaganda outlet, which it is largely, has this to say: the alt-right is creating its own dialectic. Here's the dictionary. Black-pilled. Femoid, geotus, I don't even know what that is. I've never even heard of it. Hypergamy, that word has existed long before these current ideas of reaction to extreme leftism. So this was October 30th, 2017. It says vocabulary pop quiz. Define the following words. Hypergamy. That's pretty easy. That's the idea that women choose to pick the best man that they can, essentially. That's, it's a little bit deeper than that. But yeah, they tend to go after the best they can get, right? Femoids, meeks. If you got all of those right, you're on your way to becoming fluent in alt-right. Why is this alt-right? No political movement has created an internet dialectic with the speed and scale of the alt-right. Compromised conspiracy theorists, anti-feminist, white nationalist, Donald Trump supporters, and other disgruntled right-wingers, the loosely connected group has organically formed a shared way of talking that allows different factions to identify with one another. This creates a verbal badge of allegiance, and the terms they have coined can be difficult for outsiders to follow. Really, really interesting Quartz. Have you ever considered that you guys got this going on? The zeroth position. Say a personal blog. A glossary of social justice warrior terminology. The use of language by social justice warriors frequently departs from both the dictionary definitions and the common understanding of words by most of the general population. As such, a guide to social justice warrior speech may be helpful to the layperson, along with commentary about how their use of words relate to reality. This will take us from take the form of an informal and potentially humorous glossary which will not be exhaustive due to some terms being understood in the same manner by social justice warriors and the layperson, and due to continual invention of new terms. This glossary will focus on how such terms are used in practice rather than how social justice warriors might define them in theory. And the first term, this being in alphabetical order, or, alphabetical if you pronounce it phonetically. Ableism is the first one. Any criticism or negative sentiment that affects people with disabilities, regardless of validity. So why do I bring this up? Well, in light of this Quartz article, seems to make sense, because here the Quartz author is making the claim that there is a grand conspiracy online amongst people that are using this terminology because they've agreed to it somehow, some way or another. Now, I have yet to meet a person who is on the right, that is a liberty-minded person, a person who does not involve themselves in the progressive way of thinking, in the woke scold, in the SJW cult. That is anyone right of Mao, as Don the pleb often says. So this right here is just people on the internet conversing, and as you get countercultures, what happens is they create their own slang and they just participate in it. Completely organic, by the way. This, though, on the other hand, is not organic at all. This is actually created by the postmodernist left in order to create the cult of woke. The cult of woke, that is the church of woke, the religion of woke, the religion of collectivism, the religion of no identity, but the identity you are assigned. And it's very important that you understand the uses of language from them and how they think about you. And I'm sure most of you out there go, well, Bill, yeah, duh, we know this already. Well, there's probably someone who doesn't. And this is stuff that you need to share with them. And maybe you don't understand how deep it really goes. Maybe you don't understand that you use some of their terminology. I'm guilty of it as well. I do not wish to use their terminology, which is why I try to wake up to, excuse me for using their terminology there. But no, I mean, true awakening, truly having the scales fall off of your eyes, and to use words that are different. And if I use their terminologies, I use it as a tactic against them, right? Because this is the game that we must play. I'm not against violating my principles to use their principles. I think that makes you no better than them, and that is a game of power. Might makes right, and that is the game that they are playing, the postmodernist game. V made a very interesting video yesterday. If you guys don't know V, go check him out. He is a Romanian who, it does very good YouTube videos, and part of him living in Romania, he kind of has that history of communism in his nation, right? But he talked about Voldemort and how Voldemort goes about, and he believes that truth is only a matter of power. And V goes through a little bit of logic and language, and how language is, we're not always necessarily truthful in language, but a lot of that is simply semantics, right? Or perspective, or understanding what the other person is trying to get across, or their experience in the moment, because anyone will tell you that an eyewitness does not necessarily have the correct understanding of the story, which is why you want multiple eyewitness accounts, and you want to try and piece the tale together from the multiple accounts. At the same time, right, he describes that truth is just truth. And that without language, we know when things are objectively true. When things happen, they happen regardless. We can get into semantics over if something is a hurricane or a tropical storm. Now, there are definitely categories for that, but again, those are human categories. So the postmodernists would say, well, there's really no difference because those categories just can be disassembled and blah, 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 blah. Now, I always go back to first principles and saying that by first principles, they're both storms. And we could say that we have categories of the severity of those storms, right? Of course, a tropical storm has a different a different satellite view than a hurricane. A hurricane's a very specific look, like we all know what that looks like in the modern age, in the industrialized world. So the grander point here I'm trying to make, and again, go watch V's video. I can't recall the name of it off the top of my head, but it's something like Voldemort believes that, truth only lies in power, and what's wrong with that, or something to that extent. But just go over and watch V. In any case, but the grander point is that the left uses language purposefully to encapsulate you and to define the truth, even though they are hypocritical and say that there is no objective truth. And a greater thing that you should look into is James Lindsay's New Discourses. He has a YouTube channel that you can watch, and all this is, big brain stuff to some degree, maybe quite boring. Maybe my content is too. I try and, bring my own personality into it. But this was a really good article that James wrote last year. And by the way, James Lindsay was on the Timcast IRL podcast. I don't think it was Friday. It might have been Friday. It was last Thursday or Friday, and it was quite good. Although I think Tim talked far more than he should have allowed James to talk more. But, if I had James Lindsay on my show, I might talk a little bit too much as well, as I just have that habit of doing so. But go check out this article. But here in this article, because it's rather lengthy, a little bit down, he talks about the cult of reprogramming. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to go back and look at some of those SJW articles, and I'm going to show you where this actually comes from and why it's actually scary, because you have to understand that it is institutionalized. And I know most of you, once again, who are regular audience members know this, but not everyone is a regular audience member. And one of the things that I'm trying to do with my content and my channel is build a catalog of information, a repository in which you can go to. I'm not saying it's the best or anything like that, but at least it's something and it's accessible, right? And there are a lot of folks that do this, and it's important. It's very important that we understand where this comes from, what we are fighting. And guys, I know there are a lot of creators that do this kind of content, but if they do it, they might not be a voice that you resonate with, where mine might be. Maybe you don't like me, maybe you don't resonate with me, that's fine, you'll find it somewhere else. But the more people that speak up and the more education that is out there, the more chances are that we can fight this off, and we can help grow generations and a stronger society, and we can take back portions, at least, of our society away from this evil mind virus. So let's read. The cult reprogramming. Once the mark is properly indoctrinated, the objective becomes to reprogram the mark to get them to think differently. The goal is no longer indoctrination on what is right think and wrong think. It is to make the mark's thinking be completely in line with the view of the world described by the cult. This will let the marks see the truth of the doctrine and themselves everywhere in the world, that being woke. And so a little bit before this, he's talking about right think and wrong think. This goes back to language as well. But the critical issue here is that if you want people to believe what you are telling them, you have to provide them with easy solutions for everything, and language does that. When the wokest belief system comes down to power always, and racism and oppression, they have an answer for everything. Sexism and oppression, again, answer for everything. And for them, they're not being sexist when they go against men. They're not being racist when they go against people of ethnic European descent. They're not being racist because they don't have power. Pretty simple. Most of you know this, but that's how they think. And then what they do is they go down these lines of thinking, and their language solidifies it, and they redefine things, like redefining a Nazi as a capitalist. The two have nothing to do with each other. Nazis are actually closer to Marxist than they are anything like capitalist. And I say it all the time. And at some point, someone's going to click me off and downvote my video because I keep saying it, but it's true. And I know it's true because I've read the materials. I've read the economics. I have read the history. I understand the thought process of the people at the time based on their writings. And what the woke like to do, and I think the same thing, the same point was brought up similarly, at least in V's video that I referenced a few minutes ago, was that in his country they quit. They said, well, we don't believe in evolution anymore because the Nazis believed in evolution, and evolution, anything the Nazis believed is bad, right? And the woke kind of do this a little bit. Hitler was a vegan, so if you're a vegan too, or vegetarian at least. In the case of the woke cult programming, there is an older and more formal name for that view of the world, which is having a critical consciousness. Having a critical consciousness occurs when one is able to see problematics in everything, where problematics are deviations and potential for deviations of the cult doctrine anywhere, any aspect of society. Notice the language. This includes in speech, writing, institutions, thoughts, people, systems, knowledge, history, in one's past, and society itself. Speech, writing, institutions. Okay, we can take that out because should get more towards systems or history and knowledge. But speech, writing, thoughts. You think in your language. In fact, that's when you know you're starting to master a language, is when you're thinking in that language, right? And if you guys don't know, we die to our language. You're basically born with the phenoms, the roots of words, how to pronounce them or whatever in various languages. You have all that ingrained into your brain, and those die away. They die out as you learn your language. In part, this is why children are a little bit more, a lot more susceptible to picking up multiple languages or dialects. People, systems. Well, language is a system again. Knowledge. Language is knowledge. History. Language has a historical context. Etymology, the origins of a word, is very important because, let's say, for instance, gender, very prevalent word today. Gender has been changed. It was changed largely by John Money's effort from a language thing where we understood in language that defined our reality, that there are masculine and feminine things within non-sexualized objects. For instance, a scabbard in Latin is the word we get vagina from for a reason, right? And a sword is a masculine in Latin, and a scabbard is a feminine for a reason. When I was in the Marine Corps, some Marines aren't that bright, and you gotta train them. So what do we tell them? Well, you put the male in and the female in. When you're trying to construct things, you keep it simple, right? Everybody understands that on a very basic level. That is technically gendered language, but it's gendered language because it is how we perceive the world, and we all perceive the world in understanding there are basic gender differences. You, of course, are lying to yourself, and you need language to change your mind about that if you think otherwise. And another one is ethnicity. Ethnicity in the social sciences is changed to something completely different outside of race. When the word comes from ethnos, which is Greek, for a nation or a people or a race. It means all of those things. Ethnicity means the same thing as race, folks. Race is this broader category today because of social science. But it's not well defined, and most social scientists want to get rid of that. Yet it is constantly used because the left knows it's a cudgel against people. It's a way to use it against people. Lenin created the word racism in Russia. You use that terminology. It has been used for a long time as a cudgel against people. And this goes way back to the days of Manning Johnson I've talked about before, but it goes further back than that. Manning Johnson from Race, Color, and Communism. If you want a little introduction to that, I've used them, I think, several times in my videos, but the main one, the first one that I used was way back when. I made a BLM video last summer, so I'll link that at the end here if you want to check that out. In any case, I'm running my mouth a lot, which is cool because I have articles, but we don't need to go through every aspect of this. So I know this gets I know this part gets a little heady, but it's important. Critical consciousness is formally the cult mentality of Karl Marx's conflict theory. Conflict theory, in a briefest explanation, is the idea that society is broken into different groups or classes. For Marx, they were economic classes, and for the woke, they are social group identity classes. Exactly what I was just trying to explain to you, but this is a little bit more in depth and concise. That are oppressive on one side, oppressed on the other, and in conflict over this. That is, conflict theory is the belief that different social groups in society are always in conflict with one another for power and dominance, and that rather than working together in complex, dynamical ways, they can be mutually beneficial. They are at war. A critical consciousness means realizing this and that you are somehow personally complicit in creating the material conditions for that war and need to do better, either by renouncing your dominance, if dominant, or by agitating for a full-on revolution if oppressed. And it's always about revolution to the left, folks. And anyone that stands in the way of the revolution is an oppressor, according to them. And that goes all the way back to Mao. Critical consciousness is therefore a very cartoonish us versus them reading of the world. Yeah, it's very simplistic. And most of the folks, Jordan Peterson did this study. Lauren Southern, back when she still worked for the Rebel Media several years ago, was with Jordan Peterson and one of his doctoral candidates. And I can't remember her name, recall her name, but they're at Peterson's house. They're talking about this study that they did, and they basically found that the majority of the woke are useful idiots, as Yuri Bezmenov said, and the rest of them are very highly intelligent people who are manipulative, and they seem to be malevolent. That is, they have a chip on their shoulder and want to do harm to people. And they found this out through studying language. Language through print. So again, go check that out. This mentality, of course, tweaks various psychological and social impulses in people, as described in social identity theory, for example, and dramatically increases what's called paranoical autism. This means strongly favoring the in-group, here the cult, and forgiving it for everything or every excess and abuse while becoming overtly hostile to the out-group, here everyone else in society and society itself, and reading everything it does in the worst light possible. This is obviously core to the present sociological dynamic. It also dramatically increases cult commitment, adding an overtly warlike tenure to the us against them mentality, which is critical. Cults like wokeness is us against them. So we go back to the Quartz article. What do you see? No political movement has created an internet dialectic with the speed and scale of the alt-right. No, actually, this is truly a reactionary movement that is reacting to you. The right always is reacting, is always on defense to the left, unfortunately. This is why I approve of things like Super Straight. It is a reaction, but it goes right at the heart of them, right? It uses their tactics against them. So what did we just read here by James Lindsay? Well, we read that it is critically, overly harsh against the outgroup. And what's it saying? Oh, this outgroup that came after we started all this woke speak on Tumblr and academia, which was in academia, by the way, for a very long time. The postmodernists have been in American academia since the 60s. This is on the right, on the non-left, this is a reaction. And these folks are going, oh, it happened like overnight. Well, what are you guys doing? You're the ones changing the language. You're the ones messing with the definitions of things like gender and saying that there's 1,000,001 different genders. The alt-right isn't the first group to create its own online lexicon. The internet has long been a place for linguistic invention. Gaming gave us woot and noob. We now use troll as a verb in regular speech. Some people even pronounce LOL as if it were an acronym, law, right? Okay, how about you'd probably like this, Quartz, Woke Scold, Richard Dawkins, who invented the word meme, who no one even cared about until 10 years ago, if that. What really memes were an invention of social media, and it was an adoption of the language that was already created. We are seeing the same patterns unfold on public message boards such as Reddit and 4chan. Well, Reddit's a left-wing site, so you guys do the same. And I've looked at and covered left-wing Reddit. I don't have those videos up anymore because they weren't that good, and I just kind of, I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. I need to get off Reddit. It's not good for my soul. Not good for my sanity. But you guys can go on there and you can go look at the stuff that they say. And trust me, guys, the majority of, like I had said before, and like I pointed out here, the majority of the woke scolds are useful idiots. You can see what they say about capitalism, communism, the excuses they make. It's ridiculous. Beyond creating exclusive jargon, like this revealed concept, that a group feels are common and important enough to require a go-to word, there is no readily available term in English that means women are robotic and subhuman, a belief held by many alt-right manosphere members. They are called femoids, a disturbingly common term that refers to women as non-human. Likewise, there is no term that Today's a bad language day, guys. Today's a bad speaking day for Bill. A term that I even know what this is trying to say. Just to put down women refers to people who believe in social justice, hence the demonization of SJWs as an acronym, social justice warriors. Well, they created that on their own. Excuse me, guys. My brain's going to be really dyslexic today for whatever reason. But you kind of get the point of this article. The left is allowed to create their own language, but the right isn't. By the way, femoids I've never heard of before. Seriously, never heard of before. I'm pretty in tune with most of this stuff. I don't know who uses that terminology. So, just similar article from New America. Red pill to black pill. The red pill term comes from the 1990 Matrix, blah, blah, blah. Framework for individuals to describe awakening. And then the major contemporary secular male supremacist movements, PUAs and men right activists, the red pill and men going their own way use the terminology to describe their realization that men do not hold systemic power or privilege. Instead, they awaken to the truth that society, economy, and sexually men are at the whims of women and feminist power and desires. But that's absolutely true. You can't say when you own all the cultural institutions on the left, when men are basically failing in like record numbers in school and in the workforce compared to women and in wages, you cannot say, well, but men are actually still in power because there's a few top men who do this, this, and that. You have to look at the whole of society. And I'm gonna give you another word. It's not a made-up word, but the left likes to phrase it this way. The apex fallacy, right? Where you only take the top % of folks and you believe and you apply that to the rest of society. Apex fallacy. That's part of that manosphere. Now, I'm not a fan of MGTOW. I think those guys, they don't get it right. I think that they're in their own personal hells. I don't like that. I think that they're in a bad mental, emotional state. That word was derisively, by the way. It just came to me. Where are we at? You all saw it. There it is. See, I can say it now. That's dyslexia in action, folks. Derisively. Anyways, back to this. So then it goes on about, blue pillars, blah, blah, blah. Beginning around 2016, misogynist incel forums began to shift from a red pill to an increasingly black pill mentality. They were before that. But red pill in this context goes back to Cassie J and her movie. And by the way, guys, if you watch Cassie J's movie, The Red Pill, and you don't get upset about the plight of many of those men in that context, you don't have a heart. And if you're going to say that you can't agree with the men because men in the past had it all, that those men must suffer today because of something that happened decades ago, you're just an evil person. You don't punish future generations and current generations for the generations of the past. This is immoral, right? Plain and simple. And most of us know this. And Cassie J went through over a year of researching and doing this documentary movie. And she decided she wasn't a feminist anymore because she realized what feminism is really about. It's why it's gendered, folks. It's about female superiority. We have to understand that these sexes are complementary. This brief system accepts the red pill view of society dominated by women, but rejects individual level attempts at learning the game to achieving a sexual relation with women as misguided, asserting that the only change at a societal level has the possibility to be effective. And I could keep going on with this article. This is from New America, but I really don't want to, because what I wanted to focus on was the ADL, because that's where these folks are getting this crap from. Now, this is a later article. This is updated, but this is the Extremist Medicine Cabinet, A Guide to Online Pills, November 6, 2019. Now, I like the little swastika pills here. Way to go, ADL. Should we cancel the ADL, by the way, for having a swastika picture on its page, on its website? Because most places that have swastikas up get canceled. I mean, they're censored on the news when it's hoax hate and it's backwards. So shouldn't the ADL be canceled? Just some food for thought there. So pills featured prominently online chat rooms and forums dedicated to right-wing extremists. These are not actually pharmaceuticals. Instead, each pill sends a message about a person's level of dedication to an extreme ideology or cause. I would say no. I would say it's internet slang and terminology. But again, this must be framed by the left because the left controls the institutions. The leftists have power, folks. They are the tyranny. From the incel movement to the alt-right, many subcultures are born online, and members use the internet as a primary method of contact and radicalization. Oh, you mean like this thing that James Lindsay wrote about the cult, and how you disparagingly, if you're outside of the cult, look at everyone else? See, I'm not in a cult. I can't be in a cult of the individual. There's no such thing. I'm an individual. I argue with my online friends. I have people on my show. We don't agree. We try to be nice and polite to each other because we're trying to have a discussion, but we don't agree. There's no cult there, guys. The cult is a mindset of agreeing with everything at every point. And I know some of you who may be lefties or no lefties might think, well, they don't always agree on everything. For the most part, yeah, but then you'll be an ally, won't you? More of that special language. So anyways, I'm not going to go through this entire article for the sake of time, because it talks about the Matrix once again. Okay. It says, and post about American political parties, the red pill generally refers to the GOP, while the blue pill is aligned with the Democratic Party. Why would that not be any different? Red and blue are the colors you guys picked a long time ago. For many, the red pill is just the first step in a long journey. Being red pilled means shifting away from one set of beliefs to another. What the red pill represents is directly from the Matrix. That you're waking up to reality. That you're caught in the Matrix. And the Matrix is, and look guys, it's true because I grew up with this. I'm 40 years old. I grew up with this, being born in the 80s, growing up in the 80s, early 90s, during the first wave, by the way, of wokeism. It was just called political correctness then, and it wasn't really embraced like it is today. And I can tell you that worldview did largely shape the way I interacted with people and women all the time, because it was in the culture, it was in the zeitgeist. And it wasn't until I got older and I woke up and I had to go through some of my own experiences that I realized, hey, I've been living in the Matrix. Largely of my own construction, actually. But regardless, it exists, and that's why it's being used. So, yeah, it talks about Candace Owens, whatever else. MRA activists, incel circles. The red pill is specifically, and the red pill is extremely specific and serves as an introduction to a particularly dystopian and misogynistic worldview. And let me tell you real quick before I go on with this. I don't agree with the ADL's perception of MRAs. But as far as the incels, MRAs, and MGTOW, MRAs are a broader thing. I technically am an MRA. Men have rights. All human beings have rights, in my opinion, or should have rights. What's the big deal? Incels, I think, are men that could be more empowered, as much as I don't like the word empowered, but they could be more self-actualized, as much as I don't like that word either. They could go out and take charge and act like men, but they don't know how, because, again, the society has beat them down. Now, I know many of them are not very attractive men, and they have higher standards than they should. So, again, that's a problem with them. They need to look within the mirror, look inside, and say, screw this mindset. It's weakness on their part. As far as the MGTOW guys, same thing. I was almost in that camp. I was never a MGTOW guy, but I mean, man, for years I believed, I was just going to have a series of girlfriends. I guess I'm never going to work it out. I'm just going to either, be dating multiple women at once or have one girlfriend for, 9 months or so and then move on. And that's going to be my life for the rest of my life. I thought when I was 45, I was going to retire and my daughter would be old enough and I just take my retirement and I go to Brazil and go do BJJ or something and go live, in cheaper countries on my retirement, or go to Thailand and do some Muay Thai and whatever. Go travel the world and do martial arts and do the stuff I like to do. That's where I was at, man. That is a self-defeating mindset. That's the problem with these folks. The end. I don't have any problem with them other than that. So this can be explained by the 80-20 rule, which says 80% of women desire just 20% of the men. That's not quite true either. But that goes back to the idea of hypergamy, which it talks about. So here it says the black pill. For those of on the extreme right, the black pill represents nihilism, or a realization that the system has gone too far to change. Well, I'm sure at some point someone, if I ever get enough viewership or traction, someone will say that I'm an alt-right extremist. But I reject the black pill because I reject nihilism. I am a Christian. So anyways, it goes through all this. It goes down here to the rape pill. This is the ADL, by the way. Like, I don't know what dark circles of the internet they are on, but I haven't really seen this. But if I did see this, I would assume it's a joke. The rape pill is a term used within a subset of incel communities whose members identify as, I'm not even going to say that. Who knows what YouTube will block. They believe all sexual interactions between men and women is or should be coercive. Okay. The siege pill. I think the ADL is making this up. Like this, like what 4chan or 8chan page did they go to find this? This is the most extreme pill. Excuse me, guys. Not only am I not going to be able to talk today, but my voice is going to give out. This is the most extreme pill and represents the divergence between mainstream and far right, the faction that tries to bring about change within the established political system, and the radical revolutionary vanguard. This pill takes its name from the neo-Nazi James Mason newsletter. I never even heard of this guy till I read this. And I did pre-read this article, by the way, guys, which I don't always do. Never heard of this. So they're going how far? And they're trying to compare average internet slang of people who are not on the left to some supposed neo-Nazi I've never heard of. That's the comparison here, right? Just like James Lindsay has over here in his article, the most extreme, unforgiving stances. And again, this is the ADL, a very influential organization. You all know about them. I'm not going to say anything else about them. The blue pill is a counterpart. And the blue pill means remaining blissful, ignorant about how the world works, generally. The purple pill is the incel version of centrism. Okay. The pink pill is, I believe, the female incels, which is just absurd. Then the white pill is an optimistic worldview in the face of adversity. Yeah, we all know this. And it talks about Nick Fuentes as if he's the most evil person ever as well. Nick is a little extreme for my taste, but hey, I mean, he is who he is, right? People speak, man. Then the bread pill has different meanings to different subcultures. Among the extreme right, it refers to embracing traditional Christian values of gender roles and family. Again, never really heard of that myself. I like to think I'm pretty internet savvy, but I am practically a boomer, so who knows? On the extreme left, the bread pill refers to the 1892 book, The Conquest of Bread by Russian anarcho-communist Peter Kropotkin. And that makes more sense to me because BreadTube, as we all know, are the far left YouTubers. The iron pill, again, never heard of. Green pill, that's environmentalism. The dog pill. So ADL is just, man, they're just trying to pick up stuff. Then the JB, the jailbait pill, again, never heard of this and refers to pedophilia. Like, what corners of the mainstream internet are you talking about? If anyone says that they are red pilled, according to the ADL, they are part of the alt-right. Do you see how this framing works? And then they go down and then they go to these rather weird, obscure cases that no one is talking about. And by the way, I say cancel the ADL because they have swastikas on their page. Anyways, let's go back to this glossary of terms. Again, guys, I think I just Googled like progressive or SJW terms or something like that. This is a glossary of social justice warrior terminology. So, able-splaining, that's condesplaining by an able-bodied person to a disabled person. Now, I have heard these terms. Not only have I heard these terms, I've heard these terms said by politicians. Not only have I heard these terms said by politicians, I've heard these terms said by politicians while they are in session from all over the Western world. That's mansplaining, ageism, any criticism or negative sentiment that affects young or old people. And to my point here, politicians are saying this, these ADL terms, I don't even know half of. Agender, a person who identifies with no gender. I've heard of that too. Anti-Semitism. Appropriation. Bigender, a person who identifies as a mix of two genders. Bigotry, any criticism or negative sentiment that affects a group which is said to lack privilege. Yeah. Which is not, of course, the definition of bigotry. The definition of bigotry is basically not accepting different perspectives or worldviews based on generally a singular issue. Can be race, can be sex, can be just your political affiliation, can be all kinds of things. You think men should wear skirts or something, and because they wear pants, you're a bigot and won't listen to them. Oh man, all these are just ethnic. Cis is a made-up word that they use, by the way. A person who identifies, the difference is they put this in academia. By the way, language does not come from academia. It comes organically. Now you could say, well, but Charles Chaucer and was it Chaucer and the King James Bible and Shakespeare, they created English. No, they solidified the written language. The language was already there. Now, there are some words that Shakespeare probably created. We don't use most of them. Go read Shakespeare, guys. I used to be in theater. I've done a couple Shakespeare plays. One of my favorite plays, if not my favorite play, besides Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, is Hamlet. And there's a lot of language in there we don't use today that perhaps Shakespeare made. I'm no expert, but language is organic, guys. It's not created in academia. Anyways, we can go down and down and down the line. Here I have just another article. This is, again, like a personal blog. This is ultimak.com and Leftspeak. And assault weapon, firearm, bipartisan, leftist, progressive, socialist, Marxist, etc. Example, Republicans regularly work with Democrats on bipartisan legislation. Border security, racism, budget cut, a massive government spending increase that could have been even larger if not for the divisiveness in our society. Capitalism, see greed, change, socialism. Example, I am the candidate of change. So obviously this is a not very serious site, but also, you know, I often say all the time, this is code language that the left use. One last thing is this article from Vaush, which is how the Matrix red pill became the internet's delusional drug of choice. And this goes down a rabbit hole of all that alt-right stuff as well as other stuff and what it's supposed to mean and da-da-da-da-da. It's more of a... it's more of an indictment of just internet culture than it is just the right or left. So right here it says, as with any movement, there are offshoots and schisms and rival sects beyond the red pill of anti-feminism. There's a black pill of the incels, blah, 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 blah. But again, it goes back to the left trying to understand internet culture of those who do not agree with their internet culture. So, why am I talking about this? Once again, because language is important. And I actually would encourage you guys, go read James Lindsay's stuff. Obviously, Lindsay, Peter Boghossian, and Heather Pembrose, if you aren't aware of them, released some articles the other year into academia that got published. One of them was a print of Mein Kampf, a section of it that basically replaced Jew with white male. And it was accepted and praised later when it was discovered. Of course, they tried to basically say, well, but in this light or that light, you know, well, but it was good in this way. But, you know, what they really did is then they then said, well, we're going to fire Peter Boghossian, or try to, because, you know, he called us out and we can't have that. It only goes one way, guys. It only goes one way. But go look that up. Go look up all these different terms that the left has. Like, how much terminology do we have on the right? And how natural is it? We don't make it up. We don't push it in academia. We just talk. We talk on the internet. We say red pill. We say white pill, clear pill, black pill, all that stuff. Because it's shorthand for, I'm feeling a little nihilistic. It's slang. It's also something that, you know, we say normies, people who aren't within the internet culture. The left has all of its own language as well. And this also speaks to us having the need, as we come up together, of parallel societies. Because we literally are living in these parallel type societies. I like this, feminism. The idea that women should have the same rights and privileges of men without having the same responsibilities and drawbacks. That's actually not true. Feminism is about female superiority. Like 70, 80, 90% of all feminist movements are socialist superiority movements. In fact, Not that I'm going to look through it right now, but I have a couple of my college sociology books here, and I guarantee I can find them in there. That looks like another one, right? Yep. It's Chaos and Order is another, or in Conflict and Order. Guarantee you in any one of those, if there's a section about feminism, it will talk about communist, feminist. It'll talk about social justice types. It'll talk about whatever else. And some of them books are quite old. In any case, guys, that's about it. That's about all I have for today. You know, don't forget to take your pills. This may not be the best video that I did, but hopefully I don't have a robot voice the whole time, because I did do a sound check that had robot voice and I reset everything and there was no robot voice on the sound check. So I'm sure someone will let me know in the chat when this releases. In any case, guys, I appreciate you all watching. Thanks for sticking around. Again, my job is to teach you how to fish. Go research yourself. This is kind of a broad video, just something I came across the other day, and I was like, man, that's like really crazy how the left gets to frame all this. And guys, your politicians talk in the leftist newspeak. They talk this way. They talk in the newspeak all the time, and they think that they're so special. They're something, because they get to talk to you using the cool words, the new words that the cool kids have. Yet they're just part of the institution. And let me tell you this, folks, as well. The ADL, they ain't the rebels, guys. And despite what they're supposed to be doing, what their jobs are supposed to be, all they really are is creating hatred and justification for their own existence. That's what they do. Southern Poverty Law Center does exactly the same. You know, and we need more people like Maji Nawaz to go after groups like the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center. Maji Nawaz went after the Southern Poverty Law Center, sued them, and had his negative article that they had taken down because it was all lies. Imagine that, the left lied about something. It's like they feel they're justified just to have their own power. Well, my computer wants to restart for some reason. In any case, guys, I should end it there because I'm about an hour in. I hope you liked, but, you know, if not, just don't be mean. But, yeah, please share my stuff out. Please share my content out. Today is Tuesday. It is March 16th, 2021. If you're watching this later. So tomorrow I should have a quick shot, and then there is the live show, The Ends Justify the Memes. And we will have on Elliot Hulse, who, if you do not know, is a strength coach and a man coach. He coaches masculinity. He coaches manhood. And I got to hang out with Elliot a little bit and train with him a few weeks back when I was at the Full Spectrum Warrior Protector Summit. So he will be on tomorrow night. That is March 17th, 2021, and we will be talking to him. We'll do some memes as well with Elliot, and hopefully we will have a good time. And I've been a fan of Elliot's for a long time, so it'd be good to have him on the show. With all that said, guys, this has been All Minus One, and I wish you all well.